Ekta, hi Richika, hi. Hi Pravina.
Good
Hi,
evening,
hi, Amit.
everyone.
Hi, Amit.
Hello, Ekta. So nice to see you.
Hey, Rishika, good to see you too.
Hi.
Hello
And
everyone, good afternoon.
congratulations.
Hi.
Thank you. We'll give another minute for more people to come in.
I hope everyone is in the right meeting. Utilities being such a popular subject, I didn't realize. Kidding, hi Abhay, hi Bhushan. I just, Preet will just kick us all off.
So I think we are a good number now, and while others will keep on joining in, I think we should get started now. So, firstly, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. We know it's Friday evening, and we really appreciate that you've taken out the time to be with us. Uh, for us, of course, it's a special moment as we launch another publication under the Impact Future project. And this one focuses on the utilities sector, a sector which we all know is very fundamental to India's growth and transition to net zero. And we promise that we are going to keep this brief, focused, so you can all get a sense of the framework, hear from some of the people who've shaped this research, and you take away a few useful insights, not just about the utility sector, but about the larger sustainability ESG ecosystem. So thank you once again for being here, for supporting the work that we do. Um, and before we move ahead, so we have a presentation. We'll show you what the framework is about. We'll also welcome all our co-authors who are present today to share their remarks and experiences. Amit is also going to, share his thoughts with all of us. But before we get into all of this, we have a short video to reminisce about the journey, our co-authors. There were working group meetings that happened and what came out of those conversations. So it is a quick look back at the journey that brought us to today. So let's take a look at it. Sayan, can we have that video, please? Thank you. This is a glimpse into who all were there as part of the working group, and we met. And today we'll be launching the publication to a wider audience. I think it is important that I invite Amit Bhatia. He's the founder and CEO of Aspire Circle and Aspire Impact. He's the man whose vision has given birth to Impact Future Project, and it is being supported by Capgemini to share a few words and his remarks with us. So over to you, Amit.
Thanks, Preet, and good afternoon, everyone. The fact that 45 people on a Friday evening, want to hear about utilities is inspiring by itself. Uh, but before I talk about the framework, let me remind everyone of a small story, and this goes back to year 2000. And this may come as a little bit of surprise. So, at the turn of the century, the US National Academy of Engineering put a study under Neil Armstrong, the first astronaut to walk on moon. And Neil Armstrong himself made this announcement. They said, let's look back at the two millennia and let's look at, especially the current millennia, and let's film which were the 20 greatest engineering achievements of the century, ranked by their impact on quality of life. So the big study, and Neil Armstrong then, when the study was over, declared which were these 20 greatest engineering achievements as voted by the US National Academy of Engineering. And lo and behold, ahead of automobile, ahead of the airplane, ahead of computers and internet, at number one was electrification. The vast invisible networks of cables and power that quietly made everything else possible. Water supply made the list too, at number four. And yet, when we tell the story of modern progress and modern civilization, we talk about the car, the phone, the chip, rarely about the grid or the pipeline that made them run. So, utilities is the sector we forget to thank, even as we depend on it completely. So, this is exactly the gap this publication tries to close. So, India's utility sector, it sits, as Harpreet just mentioned, at the heart of our net zero journey. And yet, the ESG measurement for the sector has too often relied on a single blended score, one number that cannot tell you whether a company is managing risk well, creating real opportunity, both, neither, and would that company and its inventions feature ever at the end of the millennia in the 20 most creative, engineering marvels. So the framework that we're about to discuss, and in about 30 minutes, this will be done with that. This framework offers two innovations. One, we separate ESG risk and ESG opportunity, and we separate into two distinct ratings because these are different questions requiring different answers. Second, we combine industry agnostic KPIs with utility specific indicators. And when I say utility specific indicators, think of transmission distribution losses, leachate intensity, water stewardship. So the framework speaks to the actual language of the sector. Now, this is a milestone for us because this is the 20th publication. Okay, over this last now coming up 6 years, 20 such publications have been released. There have been 400 plus co-authors, CXOs from India Inc. And what started as an individual research paper is now quite deliberately a living library of impact science. Okay, growing, evolving body of work that we hope will outlast any single framework or any single sector. Now, none of this happens alone. So my deepest thanks to my 12 other co-authors, leaders across power, renewables, water, waste. They're here. They will speak shortly, whose expertise and candor made this framework credible. This publication will be available on our website starting now. And thanks to Capgemini, our sponsor, for believing in this public good nature of this work. Also, thanks to this extraordinary Aspire Impact team behind the scenes. They did all the hard work and the heavy lifting. Harpreet, Rohit Bandana, Pallavi, Shan, Hamna, they're all here. Their research, rigor, persistence really helped the working group put together this document. And finally, thanks to all of you, the 50 of you who are here today, your presence here itself is a signal that better measurement matters. that this sector deserves the same rigor we bring to any other. So at Aspire Impact, our conviction is simple. Better measurement leads to better decisions for companies, investors, regulators. And therefore, I'm very happy that I get a chance to be part of many such working group, 20th one to be exact. There'll be a couple of other releases coming in the following weeks. So welcome everyone to this afternoon to discuss the utilities ESG framework. And Preet, back to you.
Thank you, Amit. So now is the time to, bring up the framework, a few nuances about it. Sayan, may I request you to... Yes, thank you. Of course, it gives us immense pleasure to present Utilities and ESG Performance Framework. This is the title of the publication that is being launched today. And as Amit mentioned, this is the 20th publication under the Impact Future project, which is powered by Capgemini, and the sixth in our series of sector-specific ESG publications. So we've been doing research and thought leadership since 2020. In the recent years, our focus has been ESG measurement. So how do we make ESG measurement more sector-specific, more comparable, more meaningful, and more useful in understanding both risks and opportunities? And what makes IFP particularly special is that this is not research that has happened in isolation. So over the last 6 years, the IFP journey has been nurtured by 400 plus leaders and practitioners across ESG, sustainability, and impact. And today, we are launching the utilities publication, and we are very proud to bring this work out to a larger audience today. On to the next one, Sayan. So just very briefly on who we are. Aspire Impact is a standards-based impact measurement firm. We've now worked with 80 plus clients across 200 plus projects, both in India and in international markets. So a large part of our understanding comes from actually working with organizations of different kinds, looking at their data. We ask them questions, and we also listen to the people inside these systems and organizations. And that is really where we find our research inspirations, because when you're doing this day in and day out, you start seeing patterns and you ask questions, and then you want to solve them as well. So all our research in this space is intended to be evidence-backed, experience-backed, rather than being simply theoretical. Next one, Sayan. So now, this is really where the problem begins. So the issue is not that ESG ratings don't exist. The issue actually is that sometimes the same information can produce very different conclusions, which is eventually confusing for everyone. So here on the chart, you see the same company, by one rating agency being rated as the best in their sector. But for the same period, the other rating agency is probably not rating it that well. So we have examples from IT, banking, pharma, and this is, visible across sectors, across companies all the time. So the underlying public information is available, but that if there are two different rating providers and they have their own definitions of materiality, they are assigning different weights or using different KPIs in the framework, the same company can end up with very different scores. And I think this is one of the biggest puzzles ESG sustainability professionals, face every day and try to solve also. Because eventually the question, from the CEO or the board is, what is our ESG performance really telling us? And that is, of course, a difficult question. So we've tried to address that question, through this framework. So this is just reinforcing, the point that I made, that there are two main challenges: correlation across providers and comparability across companies. And then there is another question underneath all of this, that what is an ESG rating actually rating? I mean, is it risk? Is it opportunity? Is it a company's current performance? Or, is it focusing on management preparedness for net zero and, those kinds of transitions? Or is it, some combination of all of these? And, these are not questions, which are new. They've are discussed extensively across the ESG ecosystem. And we felt that, instead of only, identifying the problem, we should try to build something that gives a more transparent answer. So these are, some features of Aspire's framework. So we started with the same base that most investors or analysts or companies do. We started with publicly available information, which means BRSR reports, sustainability reports, annual reports, etc. Because we are also trying to build a system which can be transparent and replicable. So this is the most important or the most practical starting point. But then, of course, we looked at and were informed by major global reporting and ESG frameworks, also IFC, IFRS, ESRS, because these frameworks have to speak to each other in some way. And then we did something more interesting. We brought in core or industry agnostic KPIs, and then added industry specific KPIs also. And we focus on quantifiable indicators like intensity ratios and outcomes, and not simply yes or no questions in the framework. And then most importantly, we brought in a democratic working group process where our working group members, they actually debated and voted on what they considered relevant and should be included in the framework. And just to note that the framework has a 5-tier drill down structure, which we'll see in the next slide. So this is how the tree or the structure looks like. And so we start, by separating ESG risks from ESG opportunities. That's level 5 for us. And then we build upwards. So instead of, only how ESG ratings are, that there's just only one number or, alphabets, we are trying to ask two different questions: that what risk does the company face, and then what opportunities is the company creating or capturing. And then we bring together the common ESG base or architecture, which so that becomes the base, and on top of it we put sector specific KPIs so that we do not lose the nuances of the sector. Yes. So now this is specifically for utilities, and this is where it starts becoming more tangible for utilities. For example, it may be good to know that how much renewable energy is being produced, or how much is it increasing year on year. But specifically, we may also need to ask about grid losses or smart meter penetration, how much renewable energy is being produced under the green tariff supply, percentage of waste which is processed and then converted into refuse derived fuel, water quality, etc. And these are not generic ESG KPIs. They are very specific things that a utility can actually measure. So on the screen, the ones in the green are opportunity KPIs, and the other color is for risk. Next one, Sayan. Yes, so this is one of the most relevant and interesting features of the framework, because ultimately a rating is useful only if we can understand what it is telling us. And we believe that this 2 by 2 gives us that picture. Like I said, that ratings are usually one embedded number, difficult to figure out what lies or what calculations have happened to arrive at that number. In this 2 by 2 grid, we look at ESG opportunities on one axis, and the other, we look at ESG risks. So we can see whether a company is low risk, high opportunity, high risk, high opportunity, and so on. And it also gave us a sense of position and direction, in which quadrant the company is at currently and where it can aspire to be, and it shows up here very clearly. So it is not just saying that you score 72 or you are a AAA. Where you actually are in terms of risk and opportunity, you can clearly make it out from here. So there is no masking, and hence no confusion. And so we also ultimately provide an integrated score, but we first understand where that score is coming from, and that is essentially how much from risks and how much from the opportunities being captured or tapped into. So this is just, a comparison with another rating provider, and how, you get to see the quadrant versus a single score. Next one, Sayan. Now, finally, in the publication, we've also put in a few KPIs, as recommended KPIs. Now, whenever one is designing a framework, there is always a temptation to include every KPI that we think would, ideally be useful, but we want it to be realistic. Uh, and if companies are not currently reporting the data, the framework will once again become only theoretical. So we've made a distinction. So these are KPIs that, so there are in the framework KPIs that we can use today because there is data available for them, and industry maturity, has also come in, making it practical for companies to report on them. And then there are KPIs that we believe companies and regulators should aspire towards measuring in the future. So, for example, load management programs, or on the risk side, something like drinking water quality standards, etc. And we know that these are super useful metrics or KPIs, but they are not yet, maybe consistently available across the sector. So if we put them into, today's rating, the data fill rate would be very low, and the framework would it'll become less useful. But instead, we are saying that, let's build the data, an inspiration for the sector to then bring it into mainstream ESG measurement, as the sector matures, and, maybe policy suggestions, recommendations that can go into the drafting of the BRSR as well. So yeah, the working group has given us a lot of food for thought, not only about what utilities should measure today, but about how ESG reporting itself need to evolve. So finally, I want to end where this entire project actually began, with the people. Now, of course, this framework would not have been possible without, this incredible, diverse group. We had people from power, water, waste, renewable energy, as you can see on the screen. We had listed companies, private companies, uh, but the most valuable thing to us was the fact that they came into the meetings, not with all the answers or the same answers and viewpoints. They were challenging each other. They questioned the KPIs, and that is what gives this framework its credibility to. So once again, to every member of the utilities working group, thank you for your time and your experience. Um, and as I said, we are very proud to put this work into the public domain. And with that, I think I should start inviting the co-authors of this publication who are present today to share their remarks. I see Vipin Upadhyay from Thermex is here. Vipin sir, may I please invite you to share your views?
Hey, hi, thank you for inviting for my views. So first is it's a privilege to be part of this group. It's quite a learning journey for me, sharing my thoughts and learning from my other colleagues who are participating here. The report itself, put ESG risk and ESG opportunity separately, which in some, other pattern, if you see, or other ways, if you see, gets hiding, in both in one composite. So that's what I have to say that comes out as one of the better things. And this itself highlights that how important this utility sector is respect to power, water, and waste. My main takeaway will be, or the people on call will be, what I really want to say is that ESG, of course, we can talk about measurement, but the impact will be if it goes from measurement to management and from management to meaningful impact. So for me, the real test will be that how we are implying this report to improve our performance for safer, cleaner, or more resilient and inclusive, locations or better ESG performance and make our utility sector better. So that will be all from my side.
Thank you, Vipin sir. Next up, we also have with us Dr. Bhushan Pachpande. He's from VA Tech Vibhag. Bhushan sir, if you could, yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Over
I'm
to you.
here. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So good evening, everyone. So uh, it's a privilege for me to be a part of this launch today and to author this ESG framework for this utility sector. So I have some takeaways on this. This utility companies integrating ESG framework into the work is not a compliance exercise, right? So it should go beyond the compliance exercise. Actually, it should be considered as a blueprint for the long-term operational excellence, resilience, and building the trust. So I think with this current methodology, I think that is justifying to build the trust of the utility companies rather than having only compliance to create a meaningful impact in the place. Secondly, there are a lot of good things that I can see from this. Means a lot of discussions, then the studies we had with this to cover that how utilities other than power can be adopt this framework so that they can make themselves as a ESG compliant. Right, so because a lot of nowadays, a lot of funding agencies are also asking for the compliance of the ESG. Right, so again, I'm sure that adopting to this comprehensive framework, utilities industries like us can transform from these traditional service providers to catalyzing the sustainable and climate resilient development. So that's how I can see from this framework. So thank you.
Thank you, Bhushan sir. Next up, we have Ekta with us. Um, Ekta, if you could, thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. It's such a delight and privilege to be here and to be a part of, this whole journey. I learned a lot in the process, as in there were gray areas for me. I had been with Shell for 14 years, and hence power sector was something that I thought I understood. But while doing this whole exercise, there were many new learnings for me as well. And then, of course, the whole water supply, waste management, all that was like, very refreshing to, kind of go through the potential KPIs and, talk about the risk and opportunities. I think a big congratulations to all of you, Amit, Harpreet, the entire Aspire team, to make this happen and so beautifully, so collaboratively, right? As in, you get so many of us together. It's so difficult to tie in so many calendars. Also, such effective time management when you did this work. I was really, really impressed with that. And like the others said, I'm really looking forward to this framework getting leveraged by organizations, all this hard work that you've put in. I really look forward for this being, seeing the light of the day with organizations adopting it and taking it forward. So thank you again.
Thank you, Ekta. Next up, I'd like to invite Abhay Bhav sir. He's from Fourth Partner Energy. Over to you, Abhay sir.
You're on mute. Abhay, you're on mute.
So sorry. Yeah, first of all, thank you so much, Harpreet. And let me begin by congratulating and thanking the entire Aspire Circle and the Aspire Impact for anchoring this Impact Future project, as you're called. And of course, Capgemini for sponsoring, as Amitji has already said. With 476 gigawatts of installed capacity, half of it coming from people like us in non-fossil or renewable energy, renewable utility sector, and the country ranking fourth globally, as the report also says, in renewable energy capacity. I think this is a sector which is moving very fast towards this net zero commitment of 2070. But as moving fast is not the same as moving measurably. And that is precisely the gap I think this report is trying to close. I think, as Amitji has said, what makes this framework different is simple but an important idea, that it is separating the risk from the ESG opportunity and into two distinct ratings instead of collapsing everything into one score. Because most ESG ratings today will tell you what that company is just doing fine or average. But as others have also said, but they hide whether this company is actually managing its risk well or capturing the real ESG-driven growth. Uh, I mean, uh, this double variant rating is giving these investors, regulators, members of the board a much sharper and more actionable lens. And as Ekta has also said, I hope it becomes a working tool for issuers, investors, and regulators alike, and doesn't remain just a publication on shelf. I think that's what I would like to say, because most of it is covered otherwise by other speakers also. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Abhay sir. So we have, an author who could not join in but has sent us his recorded message. I'd request Sayan to please play it for all of us.
Hello, this is Amit Raje from Arctic Solonics. Sorry I'm unable to join the call today, but I wanted to chip in and congratulate the Aspire Impact team on the launch of the framework for utilities to determine the risk and the opportunities around ESG. Clearly, climate change affects us all, and utilities are in a double bind as renewables continue to get adopted as to how to deal with, on one hand, the investability of the situation, and on the other hand, mitigate in the long term the climate change challenges that faces us all. And in that context, I think this framework will be very helpful for all the stakeholders to make educated decisions and decide the path forward. Wishing the entire team once again all the best. Thank you.
Uh, I'd just request my team to check if, I'm
I
not
saw Rahul
missing any.
Joshi, Harpreet, he's one of our co-authors. Is
Yeah,
Rahul
he
still
had
here?
to hop onto another call, but Hamna is trying to call him and check if he can be here for a minute. And we're also checking with another co-author, Manik Handa. But in the meanwhile, Amit, if you'd
Yeah,
want
we
to,
can
yes.
close then. Thank you everyone for coming, and not just our co-authors, so many Aspire Circle fellows have shown up. I see Pratyush here, Ruchika here, Pravina here. Just saw, Sanish is here, and who else? Rashmi is here. So thank you all for showing up and being here to support this initiative. I think, in a decade or so, when we will look back, when impact science is more well established, when it's out there in universities, and, we have people called chief impact officers who become critical people in the company. Uh, I think we'll be able to look back all the work we would have done, by the end of this year, I think we're going to have about 25 plus publications out there. And we hope that we can continue this initiative with everyone's support. So thank you all for contributing. This is a public good, open source, model. It's on our website, ready to download. And with that, gratitude to all of you. We're going to call it a close. Thank you all for showing up. I told Harpreet the Bijli Pani issue are only used to vote, not for attending meetings, but the 50 of you have shown up, so I appreciate that. Thank you all. Right,
Thank
Thank you
Harpreet?
so much.
Close.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you. Thank
you.
you so much. Thank
you.
you.
Have a good
Thank you,
evening.
Amit. It was so
Thank
wonderful
you.
to hear you after
Congratulations.
such a long
Thank you.
time. Wonderful
And
work.
Rita is
congratulations.
also there from New York. I'm just a
Thank
Bangalore
you.
Congratulations.
Thank
fellow,
you.
so I'm sorry. I'm trying to see all, so this is a larger community that Aspire works with. So thank you all for showing up. Bye-bye.